What if I told you that your great-grandmother's photograph could be sitting in someone's genealogy closet or in an online database? Well, today I am sharing 15 surprising places where you can look for photographs of your ancestors. Hey there, I'm Lisa Lisson, a genealogy expert with over 15 years of experience helping others find their ancestors. On this YouTube channel, I'm sharing strategies, tools, and resources to help you uncover your family history, grow a healthy family tree, but not be overwhelmed in the process. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, you're in the right place. Now, today's episode is sponsored by Memory Cherish, and I couldn't be more excited to tell you about them because their service perfectly complements our photo hunt today. Now, you know those old family photographs that you have that are fading. They are damaged by improper storage over the years. They could be torn or have deep scratches. Well, Memory Cherish uses their patented in-house photo editing tools to give new life to those old family photos. They have talented restoration artists that can fix those tears, remove stains, enhance those faded images, and of course, even colorize those black and white photographs. Now, their services are incredibly easy to use. You simply upload your photograph and then sit back and let the restoration artists do the magic. So if you're ready to restore that damaged family photograph, head to Memory Cherish today. I'll have a link to it in the description below. Now let's get back to finding those ancestors' photos. Now, this first group of resources and places that I'm going to share with you to look for old family photographs is actually more digital or online types of resources. But in the second part, I'll be sharing with you places to look for the actual physical photos themselves. It's a bit trickier, but I've got some ideas for you. Now, one surprising place that I actually discovered the photographs of a set of great-grandparents actually were in their passport application. Now, one of the surprising places that I came face-to-face with a set of ancestors was actually on their passport applications from the early 1920s. I found these over in the database on Ancestry.com, the database for passports from 1914 to 1925. And it was a bit like hitting a gold mine. I had no idea they were there, and so I was super excited to find this set of photographs for this couple. But here's a tip when you're using that particular database. The application, the passport application, is 2-page, but it's front and back. So once you find, if you're doing a search and you find the application, make sure you turn the page because the photographs are going to be on the back page or the second page of that application. Military resources are another place to look for individuals' photographs. They could have had their photographs taken for a number of reasons. There are certainly unit photographs where they would take photographs, group photos of an entire unit. Certainly as we've come forward in time, you find individual photographs taken as well. You can search military yearbooks on some of the genealogy databases. And additionally, some of the bases had their own newspapers, so you may find those in newspaper collections as well. And another thing to think about is that oftentimes servicemen and women would have their photograph actually in the local newspaper, their home newspaper. That would be another place to look. It's not a specific military resource, but that would be an occasion and a reason for them to be in their local newspaper. Now, next up, you want to include historical society collections on your list. Never underestimate that local historical society, right? And here's a tip. You want to check the historical society, say in the town in the area where your ancestor was born, but if they were migrating and moving, you want to check the local historical society for where they went and migrated to as well. Now, this takes a bit of legwork because oftentimes you're not going to find these types of things online. This is going to require some emailing. This could require some phone calls. So again, this is not going to be a quick win, but you have potential to find photographs of your ancestors in the local historical society's records. Now, sometimes what I have seen in local historical or genealogical societies for those photographs would be things such as business photographs. So if your ancestor had a business, then you might want to see if they had any business type photographs in their collections. Maybe do they have the local school yearbooks? Do they have class photographs in their collection? Another place to look for old family photographs is actually the vertical files in the local library. Now, you're typically not going to find an original photograph here. Oftentimes it's, say, a copy, and not always a great copy of a photograph, but in those vertical files in the local library, oftentimes you'll find notes and records from former genealogy researchers whose families have donated their work to the local library. And so I absolutely have found copies of old photographs in their notes as well. Now, I find it so interesting when people share with me some of the strange places that they found in old family photographs. So let me know in the comments the craziest place that you found an old family photograph. Next up, seek out church directories for photographs of your ancestors. Churches have been documenting their history and the history of their congregation for generations. So periodically they will create an anniversary booklet, an actual written church history. They'll do an updated directory, which is basically like their yearbook. So it has a picture of all the current church members in them. And these, obviously, what a fantastic place to find images of your ancestor and even collateral relatives there as well. Now, finding these can be a little tough sometimes. Certainly you want to check that library vertical file that we just mentioned, but one of the things you can do, if the church still exists, reach out to the church itself and see what they have. And again, if they don't have it, check with the local historical society. And if it is one of the larger denominations, then you may be able to find it in a church archive as well. Now, school yearbooks are another place that, well, it's actually kind of easy to overlook, but they have images of our ancestors, right? And one of the things that I have been seeing in the past few years is that more and more school yearbooks, like high school and college yearbooks, are being digitized and available to find online. And when you find that yearbook that you're looking for, I would also encourage you to look beyond the graduation photo or the class photo and look at the sports and clubs. Are they a member? This is going to tell you a little bit about what they were interested in. And don't forget, if you have ancestors, you're researching ancestors who were part of the faculty, who might have been a teacher or on staff, check that yearbook because they also took photographs of the staff and teachers as well. Another place that I don't want you to shy away from looking for your ancestors' photograph is actually the newspapers. Now, I realize sometimes newspapers can be a little tough to research because, well, there's just no one place to go. But the good news is more and more pages are being digitized literally as the weeks go by. So you will find them on the major genealogy databases. You'll find them at chroniclingamerica.gov. You'll find them on specific newspaper databases such as newspapers.com and Old News and Genealogy Bank and all of these potential places. So there's no excuse not to actually be incorporating newspaper research into your search for your old family photograph. Now, what are you looking for in that newspaper? We're looking at wedding photographs. We're looking at photographs that accompany an obituary. Check the new sports page because perhaps your ancestor was part of a sports team. Look for anniversary celebrations, school plays, pageants that have been put on, and even, well, just fun human interest stories can also potentially have your ancestor's photograph attached. Now, an unusual place to look for a photograph for an individual is actually going to be their gravestone. Now, this is not the first place you're going to go, trust me. I have seen enough gravestones in my research that have photographs that I'm going to go check. I want to see either a copy of the actual photograph of the tombstone itself to see what's on it, or I want to see it in person because I do occasionally find photographs on those tombstones and I don't ever want to miss any source, however slim the chance that I might find that photograph. Now, a fun resource to look for your ancestor's photograph is actually in mugshot collections. So was your ancestor a black sheep? Could they potentially have a mugshot out there? Could they have had some kind of interaction with the law and they have mugshots taken? These are really fun to find because ancestors who were black sheep in the family, they generate a lot of records. They're fun ancestors, right? They make good stories, but they also have usually really good photographs because they'll have a straight on photograph of their face, but then they'll also oftentimes have a profile photograph. So, and again, they will also even have oftentimes a written description of the individual. So that's the one that can be really fascinating and interesting. It can tell an engaging story, but then you also have a really good image. So let's turn our attention now to actually finding the original photographs. So an actual hold in your hands type of photograph of your ancestors. So why is it important, or why would you want to see if you could find the original photograph? There are a few reasons for this. One is that they possibly have notes written on the back of the photograph. So it could be, you could have just a quick note about who is in that photograph or why it was taken or what year it was taken. So knowing if there's some of that information on the back, that can get lost when things are digitized and we don't see the original. Another thing is that when we can see the original, sometimes the image quality is a little bit better. And because of that, we could potentially see clues that we might not see in just a digital copy or, say, even a Xeroxed copy of that photograph. And while there is that sense that, well, there's just nothing like holding your grandmother's photograph in your hands, it's just different. So here are my top spots for finding some of those original family photographs that you might be looking for. Now, one of the first places you absolutely have to do is you have to look in your relatives' homes. All right, get permission first, but you have to talk with your relatives and see what they have, because likely they have them. They may have forgotten what they have. They may have just stored them in a box in the top of a closet and thought, oh yeah, I've got something there. So ask, because oftentimes they're willing to share. They just kind of forgot that they're there. So definitely you want to check with relatives and see who has what and what they're willing to share. Another place to look would be the family Bible. So if you can find out who has the family Bible, thumb through the family Bible, because oftentimes people will stick special things that are special to them inside the family Bible. Okay, everything from a bookmark to a pressed flower to a photograph of a loved one. So look in the family Bible and see what's tucked there. Another place is a good place to seek out original photographs for your ancestors would be, say, at a family reunion. Are you attending a family reunion? Then put out a call for people to bring their photographs so that you guys can share, that you can digitize them while you're there if you want to go ahead and digitize. But ask them, make that direct ask to bring photographs if they have them. Or spell them. I am looking for a photograph of our great-great-grandmother Mary Smith. Does anybody have it? Let me know. Can you bring it? So make those direct asks, because sometimes when you're just putting out, okay, bring your photographs, people forget. They don't take the time to look. They're like, oh shoot, I forgot. So I would make a direct ask and be very specific. Another place you may not have looked would be the church archives. So if your ancestor was a member of a church, whether it was a small local church, whether it was a medium-sized church or a large church, ask them about photographs and what they have in their archives. The person you want to talk to is the church historian. And I've always been surprised that most churches that I have come in contact with from a genealogy standpoint had a designated historian. And it didn't matter if it was a small rural church out in the country or a large church in the middle of the city. They actually had a historian, and they had a series of them. So find that person and ask, because they may have some in their archives. Now, another place to look would be the local museum, because museums that are dedicated to a town or region, well, they're there to tell the story of that community. And they will likely have photograph collections among their exhibits and in the back in their archives. So talk to the curator, talk to the person who is in charge of that museum, let them know what types of photographs you're looking at, and you could potentially find that photograph there. Now, finding these original family photographs is not necessarily a quick thing or an easy thing to do. It requires a lot of legwork, and well, it requires a lot of luck. But I would encourage you not to leave any stone unturned when it comes to looking for your family photographs, whether they're online or off. Now, learn more about storing and caring for your old family photographs in this video on your screen now. Safeguarding family photos for generations.